What's up, fellow bike nerds? Welcome to the Sea Otter Classic. I'm not kidding when I say there are literally thousands of cool new things to check out down there, so we're not gonna waste any time. Let's go over there and see what there is to see. All right, we are here with Telepathy.
Telepathy, that's
Telepathy
it, yep.
Bikes. Haven't heard you guys before this weekend. This is a beautiful bike, but I hear there's a lot more than meets the eye. Tell me more about who you are, the brand, and then of course this bike.
Yeah, my name's Matt Lesmeyer, and this all started, Telepathy started with an idea to make a bike that cornered more consistently. So to do that, we ended up going with a parallel axle path, so the bike keeps a consistent cornering radius even when it's G'ing out. So the front fork comes up and back at an angle when the bike compresses. We did the same axle path here, so it comes up and back along a straight line. And so that was really the heart of it all. That was the simple idea, and from there things got a little more complicated. Nobody's linkage could do, you know, most linkages provide a curved path, so we needed to find one to give a straight line. And I ended up just one night I was Googling straight line linkage mechanisms, and I found this thing called the Chebyshev linkage, which is a train linkage. They use to take reciprocating motion, linear motion from a piston and make rotation out of train wheel.
You kind of did the opposite?
So we did the opposite. I said, wait a minute, the shock has to rotate, so we'll take the rotation, we'll make a straight line here, and that'll give us the parallel axle path. And that is what led to this first bike.
Okay.
And we built that. It was kind of a rough proof of concept. We just wanted to try out the linkage.
See what it felt like to actually ride on the trail.
Yeah, but that's what started it all. The first ride, I remember just like pushing into a corner and just pushing into the bike. It just felt like it did what you wanted it to. You didn't have to think about the weight balance front to rear. You just pushed into it, popped out of the turn. And from there, it was like, okay, we need to do this.
We're onto something,
So we worked on it for a while. We refined it. And eventually I got to a point where it was like I was going to grad school for material science and was doing battery work that I was pretty stoked about. It was actually going very well, and that project ran out, just the money ran out, or the timeline ran out. We actually had money in the bank still, but they told us, shut down. You can either go work for Raytheon, develop materials for hypersonic missiles, or you can go quit and do your own thing. And so I said, well, I don't really want to develop hypersonic missile materials.
Let's build bikes.
I think this is a sign. This is my chance to go out and do this and go full time, build the bikes. So we sat down, we spent a lot of time designing, bought all the right tools, all the right jigs, and that basically led to this newest iteration here.
Neat. And then I guess lastly, just on the more rudimentary side of things, travel numbers, head tube angle, like what are we kind of looking at here?
Yeah, so this is a 180 bike, so we actually increased our travel. You know, we figured we're gonna make a burly steel bike. We might as well give it a little more travel. But the suspension pedals decently well, so it's a gnarly enduro or a free ride bike, whatever you will. 64-degree head angle. We go for, in general, our geometry is pretty standard, except for a shorter reach and a higher stack.
Cool.
Because the way the wheels move when you compress the bike, it actually generates a lot of front wheel traction. So we don't feel the need to have a long reach and a low stack that kind of weights your front. We prefer a nice, just comfortable stand up, remain centered on the bike. And the chainstays look short, they're 420, but because the rear end grows so much, the wheelbase stays constant. At sag, it's a normal chainstay. So really I would say it's standard geometry except for a shorter reach and higher stack is kind of what we do.
Cool. Thank you, Matt. This is honestly fascinating. I'm super excited to see where you guys go in the future and see more of these bikes on the trail.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for coming out and chatting. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, we are with Tanner at the Forbidden booth. He's going to walk us through the new druid-e that just launched a couple days ago, as well as some sweet hardtails I noticed over there. So, Tanner, let's get into it.
Yeah, this is the druid-e Core. We have two bikes in the druid-e lineup, the Core and the Light. Quick spec highlights of the Core. It's 150 mils of travel in the rear with 160 up front. Bit burlier suspension with the Vivid and Zeb. Full power DJI Avinox drive system, e-bike system. And this one has an 800 watt hour battery. The only differences between this bike and the Light is the frame is the same. The motor's the same, has the same power. We just have 140 and 150 front and rear with a Super Deluxe and a Lyric to drop a bit of weight, more trail, and a 600 watt hour battery. So the Core here comes in under 50 pounds still with the big battery, full power, and the Light comes in under 46.
Neat.
Yeah, pretty excited.
So I guess while we're on the subject of motors, obviously not many people have gotten to ride the DJI Avinox, am I saying?
Yeah.
Have you spent much time on it yet?
Yeah.
What's it like?
It's awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been riding a handful of e-bikes over the last couple of years. I work in media. I'm carrying a 40-pound camera bag.
Yeah.
So, yeah, got to try out a bunch of systems. Lost a little bit, and this one was quite a game changer.
It seems
There's obviously
like it.
a lot of power,
Yeah.
a lot of torque, and a really lightweight package for what you're getting. And yeah, particularly one thing that I really love about this system is the speed sensor engagement. There's like 42 or 48 points of engagement on speed sensor down here. So when you're letting off or putting the power down, it's like instant response.
Instant. Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like it knows what I want more than, or before I know what I want.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then other big change that, people have already been talking and complaining about it, doing what they do is the new suspension layout. So I'm assuming that, to make space for the motor is kind of but how does that feel? What's that process been like?
So, the Druid, Dreadnought, and Supernaut currently all run our V2 suspension layout. This is our V3 suspension layout. So, basically what it comes down to is if you're running a battery in a shock tunnel, you're not getting a seat post in.
Right, sure.
And we, consumers are really adamant on having good insertion. So dropping the shock tunnel and going to a vertical shock position instead of horizontal with an external carbon rocker link instead of the previous version allows the size 1 to slam a 180 millimeter seat post all the way down. Yeah.
Cool. And then I guess on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, found these titanium hardtails over here. Walk me through that. What are we looking at?
So we have two titanium hardtail prototypes here. The Puritan down here, which is a gravel ATV all-terrain bike.
Yeah.
And we have the Heathen. So a handful of people at the office have been running both of these bikes in steel configurations for a little while. And yeah, we just got these titanium ones here a couple weeks ago to bring here. Owen's been riding the gravel bike a bit. We only got his size, unfortunately. But yeah, so the response has been awesome. Cool. There's still definitely prototypes. We're still experimenting with some things. I think experimenting with some suspension setup with the hardtail. And yeah, if the response continues to be good and people continue to be stoked about them, we could see them starting production as early as like the end of this year.
Sweet.
So yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome, man. Cool. Well, thank you, Tanner.
Yeah, cheers.
I'm here with Chris. He's actually from my hometown of Bend, Oregon, and he is the owner, founder of Robert Axle Project. You guys just launched some cool stuff this weekend.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we got our new axle plug, which is a pretty cool system. It's a tire plug that fits in the hollow end of our through axles. So it fits on our 15 millimeter through axles, so that'll work on any of the Fox and Rock Shocks or any rigid forks that have 15 millimeter through axles in them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And you want to, I feel like we need to get someone like Windmasters or whatever to be able to like wheelie, like stop the tire, pull it out, plug it.
Yeah, we'll get a Windmasters or a Christian Pepper or something like that. It'd be super fun,
That'd be
right?
awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
And I'd love to know, off the camera, I said, who's Robert, right? And you gave me a cool backstory on like the name of the brand and kind of how you guys got started. And I feel like a lot of folks out here are
like it's such a funny name, Robert Axle Project. Like, are we friends of the Alan Parsons Project, or like, who's Robert? Where is he? Like, where'd he go? So we started in like 2013, 2014, making through axles for bob trailers. A bob trailer is a single wheel trailer, and COTA, Central Oregon Trail Alliance in Bend, Oregon, is the trail organization I was really involved with for a long time. And we built a lot of our local trails using bob trailers. And when bikes moved to through axles, we had no way to attach them.
Yeah.
So I was working in a machine shop at the time and made a couple through axles to fit my bikes. And I gave a couple to Lev of Cog Wild. And Lev went home. He's like, I went to put it in my bike. He's like, it doesn't fit. It's not even close to the right length. The thread pitch is wrong. I'm like, what are you talking about? It fits my bike perfectly. And so right then I knew that it was going to be a thing that the bike industry was never going to figure out, because everybody was doing something different. And so it wouldn't be possible for these trailer companies and such to do that. So we started with bob axles, and it's a tiny part of our business now, but it's literally the foundation of what is our brands now with Robert Axle Project and Old Man Mountain. So,
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff, Chris. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me tell my story.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'm here with Samantha, marketing manager at Niner, and they just released their new gravel bike. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so our brand new OR9 RDO,
Okay.
OR stands for Off-Road Explorer.
Perfect.
RDO is our secret word for carbon, and the fancy way that we construct it by pulling out a lot of the filler and really compacting those fiber ligaments.
Cool.
So that's our race day optimized carbon fiber. One of the big questions we're getting about the OR is how is it different from our RLT?
Yes.
So the RLT is our road less traveled. It's kind of been pegged as our like gravel weapon of choice, and so OR has some people scratching their heads,
Yeah.
right? So let's talk about some of the big differences. First of all, with the OR, you're gonna get a much more slackened head
Yeah.
tube angle there, so a 69-degree head tube angle. Our fork rake is 50,
Okay.
and so
Yeah.
all in all, the trail is, you know, much more slack
that wheel out in front of you, yeah.
than the RLT. Makes the wheelbase longer because the top tube is also longer than the RLT. And so this is the one we're really dubbing our mountain bikers
Sure.
gravel bike.
Yeah, yeah.
So this guy, oh my God, sticks like Velcro when you're in loose corners.
Cool.
And even comes in a little bit lighter than the RLT as well. We've really cleaned up that front fork, so you notice that there are no brazons,
Yeah.
no fitments
Yeah.
or mounting points there. We left those mounting points to 2 to the top tube, and then we've got frame bag attachments as well as 2 bottle cages on the inside of the frame and 1 underneath the down
Okay.
tube as well. This one does have UDH, which is different from the RLT.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what about tire clearance?
Tire clearance is 50C
Okay,
with their
cool.
700 tires.
Cool. And I have to know, because I'm a steel nerd, but is there going to be a steel version of the ORE at any point?
Ooh, time will tell.
Time will tell. I hope
Time
so.
will tell.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Mantha. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah. All right. Gonna be honest, this is probably the booth that I'm most excited to be at. It's Odyssey in Fairdale. I think a lot of you have heard us already talk about this new Optus tubeless system, and George kind of helped bring this thing into fruition. So George is going to tell us a little bit about how the system works and how it's different than current stuff on the market.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, everyone wants their suspension to be progressive because you want to use all your travel.
Sure.
And obviously if you set it so you use all your travel at a low pressure or you know, on a small bump, then you've got nothing later. So you end up setting your tires, because they aren't progressive, you tend to set them at a higher pressure than you really want.
Okay.
So you haven't got all the grip you could be getting from your tires. So the idea behind the Optus was to make your tires progressive so you can get that whole travel. So you might have, say, supposing you were previously running, say, 24 PSI,
Yeah.
you might run the tire itself down to like 20 now,
Okay.
and then have the insert at, say, 27.
Okay.
So as you riding along, you've got more conforming, more grip
Yeah.
coming from the tire itself.
Yeah.
And then as you start to hit impacts and come into it, you're hitting more resistance, and
Sure.
it becomes progressive, and you get a ramping up. And as you push the shape, a triangle into the insert, that's pushing more and more air out of the way, and so you've got all the advantages of having a higher pressure when you need it,
Yeah.
and not when you don't. So that's essentially it. We have 2 patents on this, 2 US patents. One is around how the valve works,
Yeah.
and the other is around the actual structure of the Optus.
Okay.
So it has quite a subtle feature we have to explain to people, which is if you were to inflate this on its own, it would be quite a lot smaller than the rim.
Okay.
But you put it on the rim, and it needs a tiny amount of stretching, but not much. As it tries to get bigger this way,
Yeah.
it wants to get smaller on the major diameter.
Okay.
And so it pulls itself down into
Yeah.
the drop center of the rim, which locks the beads on really effectively.
Cool.
So you're never going to burp,
Yeah.
basically.
So I'm going to ask some questions that I've heard come in through our
Yeah.
various stuff we've done this so far.
Yeah.
2 biggest ones is the pros of this over a foam insert, because those have been in the market for
Yeah.
a while. And the second is punctures, right? Everyone's like, why are we putting
Yeah.
a tube in our tubeless system? We
Yeah.
don't want to go back to that. So I'm assuming you've thought of those 2 things.
Yeah, so in terms of the disadvantage of foam insert, one, it's heavier.
Yes,
So to get
right.
the same kind of protection this will give you, foam inserts tend to be at least twice the weight. So it's
Okay.
like 100 grams, 150 gram penalty
Yeah.
per wheel. The other thing is people don't realize with a foam insert, it looks like one thing when you put it on the tire, and it's a wrestle to get it on because
Yeah.
it's so big and fat.
Yeah.
Then when you put air into the tire and put it in a pressure vessel, all those little bubbles of foam, their pressure is effectively, they all compress down. Same as
Yeah.
like if you take a bottle on
Interesting.
down from an aeroplane and it goes, gets squashed down
Yeah.
by atmospheric
Yeah.
pressure. So the inserts are actually smaller than they look when they're in the tire. but
Okay.
You can never see them like that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is there are rim manufacturers now who won't warranty your rim if it has a foam insert on.
Oh, okay.
Because each of those little bubbles, when you hit hard,
Yeah.
they can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
All they can do is get higher and higher pressure.
Okay.
So it sort of has a hydraulic effect. If you hit hard, the foam gets pushed into the well and then has nowhere to go and tries to push out.
Yeah.
So with carbon rims, you can get cracks coming here
Okay.
where it tries to snap the sidewalls off.
Cool. And puncture-wise?
Yes, so this material is incredibly tough. I've pinch punctured tires with it. So like I've destroyed a tire and the Optus has been fine.
Oh, there you go.
Because it's very thin. It's not rubber, it's TPU.
Yeah, right.
Which is a very abrasion resistant, very
It's a
tough
relatively
material.
thick TPU by the feel
Yeah,
of it.
but over nylon.
Okay.
So it's the same nylon casing type of material you would have in a
interesting.
tire.
Yeah.
In a tire sidewall, but it's actually thicker threads.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are incredibly tough.
Cool. Well, thank you. Hopefully that helps answer some of your questions.
It can also be patched.
Oh, okay.
So,
interesting.
but you just any TPU inner tube patching kit
Yeah.
will patch it. But as I say, I've never needed to do it. So,
All right. Cool.
yeah.
And it sounds like we're going to be able to get one to try out. So
Yeah.
we'll let you know.
Give you a pair
our thoughts on it
and
too.
have a go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, George.
Brilliant.
Appreciate
Thanks a
it,
lot.
man. All right, moving from Odyssey to Fairdale. I'm with Chris. He's the design director for OTX Design, and he's going to tell us about 2 all-new Fairdales that you guys are launching this weekend, right?
They are launching, but they are not available yet.
Okay.
These are prototypes. We didn't tell anybody we were bringing them until the last minute. So we have V2 versions of the Fairdale Good Ship and the Fairdale Rocket Ship.
Cool.
We sold Good Ships and Rocket Ships a few years back, and there's been a build in demand for please bring back the Good Ship, please bring back the Rocket Ship. And so these are the modern versions of those 2 very popular frames that we did.
Neat.
Yep. So
what are the biggest changes that you guys have made?
So they're both modernized versions of the originals that were really popular. They now have, so the Good Ship has flat mount brakes, the UDH derailleur hanger.
Nice.
We've done rack mount, fender mount. You can do internal routing for mechanical. You can run electronic group sets, T47 bottom bracket, and we're using Reynolds 725 tubing on the Good Ship now.
Cool.
Before we move to the Rocket Ship, I'm sure people will say, what's tire clearance? Tire clearance is 32 to 35, depending on which rims are being used.
Okay. That's generous. 35, yeah.
Yep. So Rocket Ship also has a UDH hanger, also is using the same dropout design that we did. It's got rack and fender mounts again, but this is, while the Good Ship is road, this is gravel.
Yeah.
You're gonna have 700 by 45 tire clearance, but also 650 by 2.125.
Okay.
And then you'll have like the accessory cage mounts that you don't have on the Good Ship.
Sure.
Yep. So these will probably come frame and fork kit only.
Okay.
With a headset.
Okay.
And then the Rocket Ship will come frame and fork kit with the headset, but also we'll be doing complete bikes with the Rocket Ship.
Okay. Cool.
And so, yeah, we're really excited about bringing them back.
Heck yeah.
We're really looking forward to getting them out there, hoping by like the end of the year, maybe.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thank you. These are sweet, and we'll keep an eye out for when they hit the market.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, I am here with Max at Cascade Components. They released some pretty cool stuff, pretty new for you guys, I would say. Some of the biggest stuff you've come out with just a couple days ago. So tell me about it.
This is our stump jumper high pivot link. Well, really whole thing here.
Yeah.
It started off, we were just trying to, change a little bit more, mess with the wheel path, and that ended up turning into the high pivot. So, yeah, what do you want to know?
I think the biggest thing, like surface level, how does this feel on the trail different than, the typical Genie,
Yeah, so a little bit more stable because the original bike, the wheel goes forward for most of it. It goes back a touch. This, totally back compared to the stock.
Does like static chainstay length change
all the same.
much? Okay,
all the same.
It's just as it moves through its travel.
Yep.
Cool.
Exactly.
Cool.
And then more travel, more progression like most things. Brings it up to 155. And then, we also have our regular bread and butter linkage for it too.
Sure. And I guess just for the fellow bike nerds who are watching, can you tell us a little bit more about the process that goes into, this looks like this could be a factory piece, right, that came on the bike. So what goes into all that?
So a lot of math and measurements, we have to see, go through, make sure everything's copacetic, and yeah.
Cool. Cool. Thank you, Max.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. All right, I'm here with Jacob at the Continental booth. They have been on a roll lately. You guys have released like 5 or 6 tires in the last couple of weeks, but got some specific ones that are coming out just this weekend. Can you tell us a little more about them?
Yeah, sure. We've got our new XC line, which is going to be the Dubnitol, Trinitol, and Magnetol. With that, we have 2 new compounds and 1 new casing. It's going to be the race casing, the rapid compound, and the grip compound for the new XC line.
Cool. And tell me a little bit more about those compounds, kind of where they sit and the casings, where they sit and the stuff that you already have, and then tread patterns too.
Yeah, so it's kind of starting with the Magnetol. We've got the Magnetol coming in the soft compound, which everyone's familiar with our new Gravity line as well. That's going to be the kind of crossover tire from Gravity to XC, cool. And then that'll be the soft, and then next will be the grip compound. So it'll be slightly faster than the soft compound, but still nice and grippy for you on those wet routes, wet rocks, things like that. And then the rapid compound is going to be for our racers. That'll pair very nicely with the race casing as well. And it's a really, really good compound for racing. It's going to be the fastest compound, slightly less grip than the grip, but still grippy.
Cool. And you mentioned that you guys had a new gravel tire come out recently too.
Yeah, we've got the Terra Adventure. So it's going to come in 45, 50, 55. So we got sizes for everyone. Yeah. Coming up to that kind of 2.2 on the mountain bike side. It's going to be a very, very adventurous tire, as the name implies. And that's going to have the same nomenclature as our XC line. So we'll have the kind of the trail, the race, the grip, and then the kind of rapid compound as well on that.
Cool. Heck yeah, Jacob. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
All right, I'm here with Matt at the Salsa booth. Salsa just released 4 or 5 new bikes within the last 48 hours.
That's right.
We got a lot. So he's going to run us through what's cool, what's new.
Yep, awesome. Well, thank you for being here and coming by. We'll start with the Spearfish, which is right beside me. So Spearfish is a stalwart of the Salsa line. It's been in our lineup for many years. And this is its first meaningful update since the early 2020s. Cool. This bike is, I think, the best expression in the industry of a 120 bike with really modern feature updates, things like steeper seat tube angles, more progressive front end, giving you better confidence in descending, and then that steeper seat tube for better climbing. Really being able to tackle things like Margie Gussick, the Arizona Trail Race, any of those like endurance XC or XCM type of adventures. Now we're taking a look at Salsa's new Blackthorn family, and we have Blackthorn in a 125 and a 145 travel configuration, so that giving the rider the ability to choose, whereas that Spearfish that we looked at is for cross-country marathon type of events, that Blackthorn 145, and we'll look at the 125 in a moment, but I think something unique to Salsa in the Blackthorn family is that with minor parts swap, with things like the link, the shock, and the fork, you can make your Blackthorn 145 a 125 or vice versa. And we do have those links aftermarket. Cool. So through QBP, who can supply your local retailer, we're able to take care of that if someone's wanting either a particular color in a different travel class, or you want a bike that you could ride in bigger terrain for part of the year and you still want to be able to size down. And making that available to the consumer. Cool. Now we're taking a look at our notch here with a 180 fork, 160 rear, so a much bigger travel product. Can get up to a 750 watt-hour battery in there for maximum range, using a Bosch drive system, also giving you maximum torque output. So a really fun machine when you want to get a little bit rowdier and maybe go a little bit further. And so that's again, a launch for today. We launched aluminum last year, launching carbon here at the show this year.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, I am over here with Chris. I saw him teasing this bike on social media a few weeks ago. Heard he was going to be at Sea Otter. Had to track him down and learn more. So, Chris, what is this creation? Fill us in.
This is Killer Drop. My name is Chris Killer. So what happens as you extend the dropper, the seat angle gets steeper. And that's what you want. Every other bike, seat angle gets steeper as you drop it.
Right.
So it's only really optimal for pedaling when it's all the way up. Otherwise your knees bend too much and your center of mass goes forwards too much. And of course when it's all the way down, that rear end is right out of the way.
Yeah, see, I love that because you're essentially getting a slacker seat tube angle the lower it goes, which is what you want. I mean, it looks like a dirt jumper down there with
Exactly,
the seat way low
exactly.
and out of the way.
And it's just further back as well.
Yeah.
So it's now the curved part of your thigh hitting
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
that's really comfortable.
Yeah.
And since I've been riding it, I've noticed you can kind of control the frame of the bike from the side a lot more easily. So there's a whole bunch of advantages with this.
Totally.
And another development in this sort of area is the anomaly switch grade.
Yeah, right. And that was the first thing I thought of when I saw it.
Yeah. So I'm friends with Noel,
Cool.
the guy developing that. That solves exactly the same problem.
Yeah.
But he's coming from a different angle. Of course, that's retrofittable.
Yes.
The downside of that, though, you have to take your hand off the bars to actuate it.
And you're not actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're not changing the seat tube angle, just the angle of the saddle.
Yeah,
on
that's
that,
correct.
Right?
That's
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
If it could adjust the seat angle, that would be even better, and that's
Sure.
what this does. And of course, this is just a standard dropper post.
Yeah. I love the exposed, like, how the seat post is exposed in the frame like that, and I guess that's necessary because it's moving inside the front triangle, but it looks cool.
Yeah, there's a pivot here, another pivot here,
Yeah.
and this little plate here flexes just a little bit to allow a slight change of angle as it goes up. On my first, this is the second prototype.
Okay.
The first one, this pivot was over here more, which meant it had a slightly more normal path as it went through the travel.
Sure.
But I thought I wanted it a bit more extreme. So
Yeah.
especially at the top of that travel, I wanted the seat to move forwards a bit more. So
yeah.
it was really steep seat angle on those steep climbs.
Steepest climbs, yeah. Well, neat, Chris. That's a really cool bike. We're gonna stay tuned and see what your plans are, see where you take this, but it's awesome to see this like rideable working prototype here this weekend.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for taking time to chat.
Been a pleasure.
Yeah. That is a wrap for our on-location Sea Otter coverage. But again, there's so much stuff to see, I couldn't cover it all with just my small team in one weekend. So come back next Monday for next week's episode of the Weekly Rewind. We'll give you the best of everything we missed while we were here. Until then, remember that bikes are for everyone. Have fun out there.